10 new sample PMIs cloned questions which appeared in the real exam, but we have gone ahead and rewarded them to go ahead and seamlessly fit in your requirements to prep for the exam end to end. So I hope you're all doing great, and your families are as well. So a brand new set of questions, a brand new set of discussions that's going to happen. So feel free to go ahead and comment, chat, like. That's what we are looking forward to, and I'm very very happy to go ahead and see the comments and the shares and also the interactions in the previous videos as well. So feel free to go ahead and comment on any aspect of PMP exam. So I'll be there to go ahead and help you the best way possible. Hi Indumati. Hi everyone who is joining from near and far. I hope this session will be very interactive and also enriching and exciting for not only you as well as me. Let me first go ahead and share with you the YouTube link. You can go ahead and share with the same with your friends as well. Hi Siva. So this is the link you can share with any of your colleagues, your acquaintance, the, the very same persons with whom possibly you are sharing your preparations for PMP and going ahead and getting done with the exam. So very very importantly, whatever questions which we'll go ahead and try to resolve would actually be preparing you the best way possible for the exam. Now, today I have gone ahead and chosen, mix and match of agile and hybrid questions. Yeah, so hybrid being one of the facets where you will find, combination of predictive and agile concepts. So those are, very very important to go ahead and also, kind of, learn the mindset. Remember, it's all about the PMI way of thinking. You'll have to go out and fit yourself in the shoes of the PMI way of thinking, and then only you'll be able to see that all the questions, whatever they come, they are not all that hard whatsoever. It's just needing you to go ahead and come up with the right thought process, the right strategy as well. And there are strategies wherein if you are not able to make head or tail out of the question, you can actually seamlessly go ahead and ace those questions without fail. So, the onus in the exam is both the time as well as the accuracy perspective. The time is 230 minutes, 180 questions. So you should also be strategizing as per the timing, goes. So I always, encourage my mentees to have 15 minutes at the end to go ahead and review all the questions. So for the same reason, you should, as such, go ahead and time your attempts. Question upon question upon question. So right now, today as well, you'll go ahead and see that we have time to 1 minute per question. Ideally, that's what you should be going ahead and attempting or looking forward to. But then, if there is any bouncer question which happens to be from the medium or hard front, so you can take 1.5 to 2 minutes. But very importantly, not more than 2 minutes. Because if you happen to go ahead and cater to more than 2 minutes for any question, you're actually losing on time. So it's better to go ahead and mark the best option which seems to be reasonable to you, and then move on to the next question. And obviously, at the end of the day, come back with the revision of the previously marked questions, and then see how better you can go ahead and attempt. It's always better to attempt the complicated questions towards the end, because at that point of time you are relieved of the load of having tided over all these questions, and you can as such go ahead and attempt with free mode or free mind whatsoever. Remember, the answer to the question will lie in the question itself. So if you have to strategize with regards to the question, you'll have to go ahead and strategize from the question itself. Reread the question, the clue or the hint will be there inside the question itself. Even if after that it doesn't make sense, look for the best option. And it has happened, with many of my mentees, in boot camp, where they have gone ahead and rightly picked up the question, or rather the option, even if the other options didn't make any sense to them. So that's the mindset, from the PMI perspective, that ideally I would also be looking forward to. Okay, so hi Ravi, hi Daudu, hi Rajesh, Chandan, Calvin. Calvin, you have already started with the questions out here, huh? So that's great. I'll definitely explain what's agile modeling. I'll just request you to go ahead and email me any questions, whatever you have, at my email ID. I'll be very happy to go ahead and explain, all the facets out here. Very important, it's not only the matter of only a 2 minutes discussion. it actually takes a lot of time. So feel free to reach me out if you have any such similar questions, on any concepts. I'll be very happy to go ahead and help you forward. Okay, so I see many of our participants going ahead and joining. As I mentioned, please feel free to go ahead and ask as many questions as possible, and don't hesitate to, prompt in your answers out there or type in your answers in the chat section. I will be looking into who is going ahead and attempting what option, and then definitely getting back to you. Okay, so Vuzumuzi, I will go ahead and help you in terms of the procedure. The thing is, you must have already received a link from PMI on how to go ahead and take forward these procedures. So how to upload the phone, what to do, what not to do, the images whatsoever, how to upload as such. There are step-by-step procedures. You'll just have to follow in sequence, and then you will see that you are seamlessly taking it forward. So should not be a big deal. But then very very important, if you are taking it from home, which seems to be your case, very important to go ahead and practice it. Get your hands warmed to the actual procedure even before sitting for the exam. 30 minutes in advance to the exam for all these kinds of formalities is very very important. Yeah, so Calvin, you have again asked in Pimbox Guide 6, which knowledge areas occupy most questions in PMP exam? Uh, well, again, there's a mix and match. We can't go ahead and say which particular knowledge areas will occupy much, which knowledge areas will occupy less. But it's all about the domains, and there is a particular mapping between the domains and tasks to the the knowledge areas and the chapters which you are referring to. So if you again want more clarity on that, feel free to reach me out. So I'll go ahead and be more than happy to go ahead and share with you the structure or the mapping between the various knowledge areas. Okay, so hi all. I see a lot of participation out here. So let's get started. Let's get started with the core scheme of things. Let's go into the first question of the day, which is out here on the screen. And let me go ahead and start the timer. 1 minute. Okay, so the time's up, and a lot of attempts for option D. Yes, you all are right, and a great start to the session. So let's dig deep into the question and see why it is option D and no other options. You take my pointer, and here you go. So your agile team needs to come up with a decision on who should represent them in the Scrum of Scrums. So remember what was Scrum of Scrums actually standing for? So you have various scrums or scrum teams which needs to be managed in one way, yeah, at the top in a scaled fashion to help see that the efficiencies of each of these curve multiplied. So if the efficiency of team X was X, of team Y was X, and team Z was X. So you are kind of looking forward to somewhat going for 3x the efficiency whatsoever by going ahead and having a common scrum of scrum who goes ahead and maintains or manages these scrum approaches out here. Now they might work on various kinds of products whatsoever. That's not the key idea out here. But then the key idea is how to go ahead and manage effectively such kind of Scrum setups where you have multiple Scrum teams and you have a Scrum of Scrums on a scaled manner to help drive the productivity upwards. The question out here asks that your agile team needs to come up with a decision on who should represent them out here, that is in the Scrum of Scrums. Now, which of the following criteria should be best fit for the team member in this regard? Now, which of the following criteria out of A, B, C, and D you should be looking forward to see to it that you are a good fit in Scrum of Scrums? Now, very, very important. Communication is definitely one key aspect of the Scrum meetings. So, if say for example, communication happens to be one of the aspects being given out here in any of the options, it's anyways a common option, or anyways a common facet or quality of the team member being taken into consideration. Whom are you going ahead and choosing from all these teams? Those are the Scrum team members itself, isn't it? So all these team members are Scrum team members by themselves. Now everyone have to be some way or the other at some relevant levels of their communication skills to go ahead and be part of the team and collaborate effectively, right? Remember, as part of Scrum team, you're supposed to have T-shaped skills where collaboration is a big ask. So now this collaboration will happen effectively if and only if you have team members with decent enough communication skills. Now, if you go ahead with only a person, we say for example option A out here, how good a public speaker is the user, somewhat makes sense, but doesn't make sense in entire to mic in front of everyone, right? You just need a good collaborator in terms of having the communications taken forward. So a person in this figure, but the onus is not necessarily on him or her being a great server. Decent enough communication skills is the prerequisite for any team member in this Scrum team. Just basing this facet out here, might go ahead and yield, multiple Scrum team members with, public how to go ahead and choose between them. And obviously, as I mentioned, that's not the key thing or facet that you are looking forward to Scrum of Scrums. Remember, you are going ahead and looking for improved efficiency whatsoever. And for that, knowledge of the Scrum teams is very essential above anything else, above the the speaking skills or the communication skills. Option A gets ruled out. Option B, how long has the member been working on agile method? Yes, you might definitely argue saying that needs knowledge, needs skills, needs experience on the agile methods. Absolutely. Absolutely fine. But then, is it about only the knowledge of the Scrum methods? And also, in line with option A out here, everyone in the Scrum team relatively has some of the other decent knowledge about the process. Absolutely, they have to have. Yeah, might be that the Scrum Master, whatsoever in the Scrum teams, are having some kind of decent knowledge on Agile. Absolutely, there is no two-way to that. But again, the other team members in this Scrum team are also having decent enough knowledge or experience on the Agile methods. Is that the key factor to the Scrum of Scrums whatsoever? So now communication skills or even the experience in Agile, both are key facets, the basic facets, but not the best facet to go ahead and look forward to. So likewise is depth of knowledge. So as I mentioned out here, the T is the depth of skills and knowledge what the relevant team member goes ahead and represents it. Now, how well the member goes ahead and applies his or her depth of knowledge is a matter of dimension, I would say. And also in team, you work collaboratively. Not you don't work as in a silo. So you have to have these T-shaped or collaborative skills where, say, for example, even if you are good at something, you might be required to work at something else and go ahead and prove your skills that side as well. So everyone needs some decent amount as well as the breadth of knowledge whatsoever to go ahead and share. So whatever the Scrum team members you have out here, everyone has some of the other degree of depth of knowledge. So just looking for an SME or a subject matter expert with an awesome depth of knowledge might not be the best fit out here while choosing the Scrum of Scrums. Option C also gets ruled out. Option D, as I mentioned, the team member that you are looking forward to needs to know mandatorily the way to work in other teams. So that's what you are looking forward to, and that's what is the standout option out here. So only if the team member knows the work, which is only him or her will be able to go ahead and contribute in a big way in this Scrum of Scrum, where the coordination among the teams to take their efficiency upwards is the need of the hour. So the best standout option out here is how well the team member knows the work in the other teams. So let me see if you have any questions. Okay, so I hope everyone is okay with the explanation out here and no one has any other doubts. Again, if you have any doubts on any of the questions, feel free to me out individually. Okay, so Baushika says, I have a question. Until when the PMBOK examinable? So PMBOK 6th edition will be, valid for exam part of the year. The entire part of 2021 whatsoever. In 2022, the 7th applicable, for the exam. But then, when it is going to be applicable, we don't have any information about that. So if we go ahead and check out the here, you will be able to see for yourself. It's still the sixth edition which is relevant. It's not the seventh edition whatsoever. So you still have till December for PMBOK sixth edition to be relevant. But then again, very importantly, the PMBOK edition doesn't matter. The textbook materials are just for reference. Good to know kind of material. It's all about the PMI way of thinking, which you get to internalize in by virtue of such kind of practice real time itself, and also knowing the concepts where to fit when. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Even before that, let me go ahead and mark it. And as you see, understanding work in other teams is the most important facet in Scrum of Scrums, and this aids in effective coordination to identify and resolve dependencies, if any. Okay, so here goes the next question, and I am kickstarting the timer. Again, great start to the session. We are seeing the majority going for the best option possible out here. We'll see why it is a Scrum Master and why not anyone else. Yes, Calvin, you have brilliantly put it forward. Scrum Master is a policeman, a coach regulating the Scrum implementation. Absolutely. Calvin, going back to your previous question on the question one, where you had asked, what if the representative does not know about the work in his own team? So as simple as he or she won't be selected in the Scrum of Scrums kind of setup. He has to definitely know the work across all the teams, be it his original team as well as the other teams whatsoever he or she needs to go ahead and collaborate. She needs to know that kind of knowledge. So that's the best way to go ahead and take it forward. Okay, so coming to the explanation of this particular question, here you go. Okay, so the question says your agile team has been recently formed. Okay, now the team is exhausted after having worked for 12 hours regularly to fulfill their sprint commitments. Okay, now who among the following has not performed? Remember, very very important, and be mindful of any kind of negative terms out here. Not, no, anything. So has not performed his or her duties in this particular situation. So now option A says team members, B says product owner, C says scrum master, and D says agile project manager. Okay, so now very, very importantly, as a scrum master, as a product process owner, you are also tasked to go ahead and see to it that your team doesn't get overloaded at any instant or any point of time. Now you are out there to ensure that your team is following the agile process, and also to ensure that whenever you are going ahead and planning for any commitment, say during the sprint planning time, your team is going ahead and entertaining only those stories which cumulatively they have got fit into their bandwidth, or in other words, they have the velocity to go ahead and attain those committed story points. Only then you can go ahead and commit the relevant stories, and also obviously go ahead and implement the same. So if you are committing the stories more than the available bandwidth, of course you are not going to go ahead and deliver, and obviously you will be in such kind of situations where you are having to work overtime and trying to fit in. And it's not only about committing the stories based on the velocity. You need to go ahead and have proper estimation techniques in play as well. Now, where does these estimation techniques happen? They happen in the the backlog grooming discussions, or even discussions where you're discussing about the user story in depth. Which all to take, and what are the estimations that needs to be put. So all these discussions, need to go ahead and happen even before you go ahead and have the story inside the sprint backlog. And the Scrum Master's big responsibility is to go ahead and see that his or her team, doesn't miss out on any of the basics out here. And if it is any kind of estimation, then such estimations happens in the best way possible. These estimations need to be as close as possible to the real value. It should never be where a situation where, say, for example, a three-story pointer story gets marked as eight, or an eight-story pointer story gets marked as two or even less. It should never be such kind of situations. If it is at all happening, then you will be, you are kind of preparing yourself for danger, or bracing yourself for danger. Especially, say, for example, if it is an eight-story pointer story originally, but you have gone ahead and estimated as three. So in such cases, a couple of items, of these being added into a sprint backlog might land up in trouble after a few days when you see that much more work is actually supposed to be done by your team, where you have gone ahead and committed much less. So very, very important, from the perspective of whom in the team is responsible to see to it that all these processes, be it estimations, be it grooming, or be it the sprint planning, takes place in the proper way possible, is the responsibility of the Scrum Master. Very, very important. Team members are definitely there to go ahead and ensure what the agile process is. In fact, Scrum Master will go ahead and coach and guide each and everyone in the team, who are responsible for any kind of commitments or delivery, to go ahead and put their best foot forward to help in estimations. Remember, estimations doesn't happen in silos. Those estimations, in fact, happen to involve all the team members equally inside the meetings. Yes, so the team members need to go ahead and adhere to all the guidelines whatsoever being set by the Scrum Master. But it's not that the team members have to be blamed for this kind of debacle. Estimations might not have happened properly, and every reason as to why you might think that the team members haven't estimated properly, that's absolutely fine. But then who has to go ahead and take the blame? Absolutely the Scrum Master, because he is the process owner in the team. He is the person who is responsible to make sure that there is no deviation in terms of you estimating the story points, or you going ahead and planning the relevant stories inside this breadth of the current sprint. Product owner. Product owner is responsible for the product. He owns the product, right? So now he might be involved in estimation. No one is taking him out of the estimation. But estimation is not his forte. And estimation is not the only thing that he's looking forward to. He is responsible for prioritizing the backlog, making sure that only the relevant items which hit the topmost priority in the list of the backlog items hit the topmost, racks of the product backlog. And as and when the customer goes on and communicates something new or some change to the original set of requirements in the product backlog, he makes sure that those requirements get relevantly factored in inside the backlog items. Remember, agile is all for dealing with complex stories. And also, very importantly, remember the example of iceberg. So as you move along, the iceberg, grows more and more transparent, and more clarity goes there and comes to the requirements. And that is also one of the reason as to why you have this product backlog, going ahead and continuously getting refined. Product owner is the person who deals with the backlog and anything and everything pertaining to the backlog. He is never the process owner. So whether the team has gone ahead and exhausted their work hours whatsoever and are working more than whatever they are supposed to is not the responsibility of the product owner to look into. Likewise, project manager. Now, the agile project manager is there to see that the team is shielded from any kind of external influences where, say, for example, they are in a negative state whatsoever. So you can say even the scrum master is also partly responsible for that. Yes, absolutely. So now wherever the scrum team has to communicate with some other team whatsoever, the best person out there would be to reach the agile project manager, who might go ahead and help you interface with the other team. Now, is the agile project manager always a necessity? Might not be. It might also be a necessity in some of the other organizations based on their relevant structure. But project manager has no way to go ahead and get blamed for the team members having worked 12 hours a day. Remember, in agile, let me clear it again. Remember, in agile, your team is self-organized. You have gone ahead and empowered the team to take the best decision possible at their end. So that's what you are looking forward to end to end. You have no right as a team to not take the blame, or even just go ahead and possibly pass over the blame from one shoulder to the other. So everyone is equally responsible out here, but when it comes to anything wrong pertaining to the process, is the responsibility of the scrum master. Remember that, and that's very very important from any other questions from the process point of view. So if it were any question pertaining to product perspective, the product owner would have certainly been in play. So the right option out here is option C. Let's go ahead and see that. So as you see this, the Scrum Master's role to ensure that the team's working conditions, which include the workload, are appropriate and sustainable. So let's see if we have any question. Yes, absolutely. Scrum Master is responsible for removing any kind of impediments. Okay, so let me see. What if the commitment is done based on the velocity of the team, but due to blockers or wrong assumptions, team is working extra hours? Who would be blamed for this particular scenario? Absolutely the scrum master itself, because see, assumptions, blockers, and any other stuffs whatsoever are responsibility of the team to go ahead and help deal with. So anything pertaining to the process, be it impediment, be it blockers, be it anything whatsoever, it's the responsibility of the scrum master to go ahead and face head on. Okay, so actual role of project manager in Agile, well, it varies from organization to organization. Ideally, in a Scrum team, there is no place for project manager, but then we somewhere down the line have to go ahead and comply with the organizational requirements. So we might have to go ahead and factor in the project manager, for interfacing or making sure that any kind of escalations are being dealt with in a proper way. He's kind of an interface between the Scrum team and the external world, which is where the Scrum Master. Ideally in scrum teams are responsible for external affairs or external matter, the project manager. Remember, he's ideally not part of the scrum team. The scrum team comprises of the project manager is external to the scrum team, and also as rightly pointed out, is the responsibility of scrum master to handle, rather the project manager to handle the external affairs. Yeah. Yes, but then Calvin, there is no kind of, and we should not go ahead and brand it as par whatsoever among these entities out here. Be it team members or product owner or scrum master, everyone is at the same level out here in Agile. You know it very well. It's a common collaborative effort. They are self-organized, and so they should be moving forward the best way possible from that perspective. Remember, if there is any question pertaining to process in a Scrum team, an Agile coach, or even say, for example, guidance with regards to Scrum, is the Scrum Master's duty or responsibility not only to help ease the situation, but also in such situations where the team might be heavily penalized for having worked extra hours in the day. Okay, so I'm moving on to the next question. Here you go. And I'm starting the timer. Bang on, Santosh. Charlie's Amardeep, Indumati. Indumati. Okay, so Indumati says this option A. Okay. Bang on, Hope. Okay, so just addressing a couple of questions as I see, from the previous question out here. Project manager is not the scrum master. Remember that, very, very important. Project manager, ideally, from the scrum perspective, doesn't exist at all. There is no place of project manager inside the scrum team. But in organizations, especially in those which have a hybrid kind of setup, or in those even with agile setup as well, project manager somewhere down the line comes in existence. So project manager, never a scrum master. Now, also addressing the other question, which I see Soumya going ahead and going ahead and proposing it. So, when do we choose a project manager? If in such cases, it's very important to keep in mind that you might go ahead and get a question where you are asked to fit in the shoes of an agile project manager and go ahead and solve some scenario, but you'll never be asked to choose project manager as one of the options out there in the questions from an agile perspective. Like, who takes this responsibility in agile? ABCD project manager you go ahead and take? No, never. Because project manager's role in agile, it hasn't or isn't defined. It's all about the scrum master, the product owner, and the team whatsoever, the scrum team. Project manager might be existing, might not be existing. It's just kind of an external interface, no one else. Remember, from PMI perspective. Okay, now let's go into this question. I see many D's out here, so all of those who have marked option D are correct. Let's see why. Okay, so your agile team is currently holding sprint planning meeting. New backlog items get prioritized. However, they are not estimated. In order to verify unique properties of the items, the product owner requires a set of tests to perform. Which of the following should be performed before adding these items to the sprint backlog? Now, very, very important. And that's what I was as such briefly touch basing on a few minutes back. So your team is holding sprint planning meeting. When the sprint planning, you'll be obviously adding items to the sprint backlog. That's why you have gathered. You're also seeing how much bandwidth you have as a team. How much you can go ahead and commit, and then going ahead and seeing whether the items whatsoever from the product backlog, whatever are prioritized, those happen to seamlessly fit into your bandwidth. Bandwidth meaning what is the capacity of your team to go ahead and work in the current sprint in terms of story points. So you might say that your team is having 20 story points capacity or bandwidth, 30 story points capacity or bandwidth. So now let's see from the product backlog, which are the items which actually goes ahead and seamlessly aligns cumulatively with these number of story points, and then only we'll have them in the sprint backlog. And then once these items are there in the sprint backlog, you next have to go ahead and implement or execute these items, isn't it? So out here, your agile team is currently holding a sprint planning meeting, and new backlog items get prioritized. Okay. However, they are not estimated. Now, very, very important, as part of the definition of ready criteria, you will have to go ahead and estimate each and every stories whatsoever. And then only, those stories can be added to your sprint backlog. So, as I mentioned in my previous sessions as well, definition of ready happens to be a checklist of all the criteria which each and every story, going into the product backlog or rather the sprint backlog needs to mandatorily obey for them to get implemented. So, in this scenario, which of the following should be performed before adding the items to the sprint backlog? Just obviously going ahead and revisiting your definition of ready. Any options out here fitting seamlessly for the same. So, if you see it's option A out here, where it says a new epic should be added by the product owner to allow the testing in the next sprint whatsoever, doesn't make sense. Why will you add a new epic whatsoever, to go ahead and help meet this particular issue? Make use of analogous estimation technique. Hold on, the question is not asking about you going ahead and making a new estimation or making use of a new estimation technique. It is just saying that the items out here are not estimated at all. So how should you go ahead and or what should you go ahead and do to ensure that the relevant items are added to the sprint backlog out here, and those are properly estimated? Obviously not about making use of a technique, right? Be it analogous or any other estimation techniques. The product owner should provide the initial estimation, which will further get refined by the team. Never. And if at all anyone has chosen option C out here, product owner never goes in and provides the initial estimation. He might as such go ahead and sit with the team and discuss about, the story points associated with any particular story. Might say that, I see that it is a 3 pointer or a 5 pointer. Although product owner is never mandatory in such kind of, estimation discussions, but he would never provide the initial estimation, which further gets refined. Never. So story pointing never gets refined, by the agile team. So this is a misconception out here. If you have opted for option C, please correct that. Option D, Make sure that the relevant acceptance criteria gets added in the definition of ready before kickstarting the estimation. Absolutely makes sense, isn't it? This is the option that you should be looking forward to. So, as part of the acceptance criteria which gets added to the definition of ready, you make sure that before you go ahead and add the items in the sprint backlog, they are properly estimated. Until and unless they are properly estimated, until and unless the acceptance criteria gets set for each of those stories, until and unless you meet each and every criteria of the definition of ready, you don't go ahead and start implementing on the stories. So the right option out here is option D. So as you see out here, the definition of ready should be checked for the specific acceptance criteria before any effort estimation in order to ensure that all the efforts, whatever you go ahead and put in, gets accounted for in terms of obviously the right estimation. So remember, whenever the question goes ahead and asks about estimation not being in place, first and foremost clue that you should be having ready in hand is obviously to go ahead and check if you have the relevant definition of ready in place, or if it is at all in place, it might not be the acceptance criteria which is properly in place, because had it been, then the estimation would definitely have happened for that particular story. So it got just missed out from the definition of ready. So you have to add that particular clause out there in the definition of ready to help get it forward. Does that make sense? Yes, absolutely, Wellington. New Epic is much more like a large story. No, absolutely not out there from your thought process. So new Epic, might be a large story, so it's helping. Why do you think that it's going to help? In fact, the bigger the size of the story, the more complex it is becoming for you to handle in terms of estimation, isn't it? Yeah, so it's not helping at all. Absolutely, Wellington. I just now see your next comment. The estimate variable is the distracting elements to disturb the candidates. I would partially agree to that, but then for estimation, you need the relevant acceptance criteria, right? Which is missing out in the definition of ready. So that's the link out there to go ahead and safely outline. Okay, so moving on to the next question. So you have the 1 minute timer out here. I will go ahead and give you 2 minutes for this particular question. So this needs some understanding. And I'll also help explain the question once you are done attempting. Here goes the timer. Okay, so 1 more minute. Awesome, guys. All those who are attempting option C are really spot on. And I should say hats off to all of you. Let's go ahead and dig deep into the question. I will explain the question very, very closely, and then you can again go ahead and make your attempt, should you choose to change yours. Okay. A lengthy analysis is needed to assess the impact of new Asiatic regulations. So now, globe, say for example, world has several regulations going in, be it government, be it non-government. Now here it is being talked about the new Asiatic regulations. Now these regulations will happen to delay the launch of a global product. Now, say for example, I am launching a global product out here in the market, but it has kind of hit a roadblock because of these new Asiatic regulations. So, who will be the people who would be actually facing the brunt of these regulations? Obviously, the Asiatic population, or even the product in the Asiatic market where they are not able to launch because of these new regulations. Now, the perishable ingredients, whatever are part of the Asiatic regulations, or rather the product being launched, as well as the factory bookings will be lost because of these regulations. Now, the executive committee decides to postpone the launch in Asiatic countries because of the regulations. Let's postpone the launch in the Asiatic country, but the launch dates still remain the same in non-Asiatic countries. Okay, so Asiatic countries, non-Asiatic countries, there are some regulations out here, so the launch is not possible, but the launch is very much in play in the non-Asia countries. So now, in which of the following ways should the project manager replan the project to support both, very importantly, both Asiatic and non-Asiatic launches? Does the question make sense? Yes, absolutely, Calvin. So this question requires elimination. Right, so let me again clear the screen for everyone's ease out here. So as I mentioned, couple of facets: Asiatic, non-Asiatic, and you'll have to go ahead and cater to both the Asiatic and non-Asiatic. But then, unfortunately, for Asiatic, there are regulations as because of which you can't launch in the Asiatic market. But then, in the non-Asiatic, you have to go ahead and take care of, going as per the the replanning mechanism or scheme to launch the product out there. It's absolutely fine if it's blocked out here. You might go ahead with an agile approach out here because the scheme of things are complex. But go ahead with the predictive approach out here. Go ahead and replan as per the predictive approach in non-Asiatic countries and see to it that the launch is seamless. So option A, replan the project as a set of fully agile iterations. Never. As I mentioned, partially agile and partially something else could be predictive. To best meet this scenario out here. Make use of contingency reserves to cover for sunk cost for the Asiatic launch. Now, never ever in the question has it been mentioned about any kind of sunk costs out there. Remember what are sunk costs? Costs which once you incur, are permanently lost or sunk. That's why you refer to them as sunk costs. So make use of contingency reserves to go ahead and cover for sunk costs. In fact, you don't need to go ahead and read the remaining part of the sentence. You can very well eliminate the same out here right away. Come up with a set of iterations to analyze and develop the Asiatic product while adjusting the plans for the non-Asia launch is absolutely makes sense as we are discussing. So come out with a set of agile iterations out here for Asiatic, just to go ahead and deal with the complex nature of the product. Why? Because, say, for example, in the scope of a sprint, you might go ahead and develop some extra features to the product and just wait till the regulations, get lifted, or as per the regulations, you go ahead and fit the product and see if the product, can be best outlined or get, made in shape to go ahead and cover up for the regulations. Might be a possibility that you can go ahead and, come out with varying, product or change product as per the regulation, and then you can go ahead and take it forward in the market. You can do that, right? So that's what is being said. So whatever the changes needs to go in the product to help meet up with the regulations, let's get done with those complex set of requirements in a set of iterations through the agile way, and leave the rest, that is the the non-Asiatic launch, with minor adjustments in the original plan itself, and let that launch happen. Right, so this perfectly makes sense in our normal scheme of thinking. Come up with planned analysis activities for Asiatic launch and crash the schedule for non-Asiatic launch whatsoever. You can't go for planned analysis activities for Asiatic launch, right? As I mentioned, if you have to go ahead and fit the regulations, you have a complex set of requirements to deal with. So predictive or planned way of approach never works for Asiatic, and you leave alone the rest of the sentence. So as Calvin possibly had rightly pointed out, you need elimination to help come out with that. Absolutely agree with that. But then after reading or reading the question, you get to seamlessly understand that the Asiatic launch needs to be supported by the agile approach, while the non-Asiatic can still go ahead with the predictive and a better way of planning to help make it seamless. Does the explanation make sense? Incremental life cycle, very importantly, Sushant, remember, is all about coming out with increments. Yeah, it's value added increments to the market. Now every likelihood that the product might have gone ahead and seamlessly come out with those increments, but unfortunately those regulations were kind of a blockade for them. And because of the precise reason, it is as such going ahead and having to wait, and then again go ahead and have some refactorings inside the product itself, and again having to go ahead and launch it separately. So remember, such kind of questions will feature in the exam, where, say for example, part of the sentence or part of the question will refer to the predictive thought process, whereas the remaining part will refer to agile, and then it will go out and say which particular life cycle fits in this particular question. Then you go for hybrid. You know it very well. Now, out here in this situation, part of the sentence goes ahead and refers or seamlessly tags this particular scenario to agile approach. Because if you don't have the agile approach, you won't be able to deal with the Asiatic launch, because you'll have to come out with the regulations. The non-Asiatic launch, where you can go ahead and deal with predictive, you can seamlessly deal with that. Be very, very mindful in these kinds of questions, where they are giving both the options to go ahead and think through, and you should be as such open to any kind of thought process out here from both the aspects out here. Shomo, go ahead and read the question carefully out here. If you see in the non-Asiatic part out there, it's mentioned that the launch can go ahead as per the plan. So there itself, you can go ahead and have it, as per the plan with some minor adjustments, and seamlessly roll out as per the predictive way, the predictive thought process whatsoever. You don't need to go ahead and deep like agile out here to go ahead and feel put out. Yes, but the first part of the sentence seamlessly goes ahead and mentions about the the agile way forward, and you can seamlessly fit it through. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. So even before that, if you see out here, so as you see, so two parallel launch streams, Asiatic, non-Asiatic, impossible to go as such. For the first part, there is the Asiatic one, the predictive way, and obviously the current milestones must be in place to avoid any further loss. So that's how it goes ahead and seamlessly fits in. The key thing out here or the approach is the Asiatic launch should not be predictive. The other part can be dealt with in the predictive way whatsoever. Okay, so here goes your next question, and I am starting the 1 minute timer. My bad, I've just started the question again. Yes, absolutely. So I'm sharing my screen again. Yes. Okay, I'm giving 30 more seconds for this question. You know what? You guys are brilliant. Everyone coming out with option B, amazes me that, and also as such reassures me that you all are in the PMI way of thinking. Awesome, guys. Isaac, Oludare, Dikshit, Shivaji, Boishaki, Ravi, Indumati, so everyone have chosen unanimously option B. Very nice. Let's go ahead and dig deep into the explanation of this question. Okay. You are a project manager of an agile software team tasked to deliver a virtual reality headset. Okay. Now, out here, as you know, a few minutes back, someone of you were asking, where can the project manager, fit in from the agile perspective in the question? Such kind of questions. It will be said that you are the project manager of an agile team. Which best option you can go ahead and follow and things like that. You will never be asked, out of all the roles given, project manager being the correct option because project manager never parts a form of the the agile team. Okay, so one of the software build releases did not include urgent change requests that were originally or already implemented by the agile team. Now, very very important point to note out here. CRs or change requests don't normally feature in the agile perspective. Why? Because agile is always welcome to any changes whatsoever, right? But then not in the scope of the sprint. So whatever you have committed at the outset as part of our sprint planning in the sprint backlog is precisely the same which we should be implementing, end to end in the scope of the sprint and finally delivering it to the client where we are demoing it, isn't it? But then in such cases or such scenarios where one of the builds haven't featured the urgent change requests which were already implemented, there can be such kind of urgent CRs out here, where you have to go ahead and do something about it. Now the product owner had informed the software team about the change during one of the daily meetings, but no one recorded it. Now if that's the scenario, which of the following options should you as the project manager go ahead and carry out to avoid this problem in the future? So whatever problem has happened for now, but then how to avoid this particular problem in the future? So any questions which pertain to you coming out and drilling in improvement as part of your sprint or agile has to be somewhere down the line related to retrospective. Remember that sprint retrospective is always the best place to go ahead and drive in improvements. Now very important question, and you might be going ahead and asking, the sprint retrospective is always at the end of the sprint. So is it for any case, and especially this case where the change is urgent, that the entire team has to wait for the entire sprint duration till the end and wait for sprint retrospective? Well, that can be the case, but might not be the case as well, especially for such urgent facets. For such urgent facets, you might even call for an ad hoc sprint retrospective out here, which you precisely see out here in option B, and go ahead with the agreed upon change requests or CRs, process to go ahead and add those in the team charter, where you go ahead and seamlessly outline all the roles and responsibilities which the team needs to go ahead and obey or maintain and take forward. B is the standout option. But let's see what about the other options. Up the frequency of backlog refinement sessions. Now, very, very importantly, if you have understood, at least part of the question out here, the problem is not about product backlog refinement. So why will you go ahead and choose that option? Perform product backlog refinement with team and product owner. Again, the product backlog refinement is never the option whatsoever. None of the above. When it features in the questions of PMI, you should ideally avoid, because seldom are the cases or occasions when none of the above will be the best option possible. So if you know very well what exactly the question is talking about, you know it full well that product backlog refinements are not the right options, you can eliminate those two and can seamlessly choose option B and move on, as you guys are brilliantly done. Okay, so out here, as you see, so this resembles a case where iterative agile change handling isn't fast enough. Now, continuous improvements are achieved through sprint retrospectives and work progresses in the team charter. Sorry, Induvati, I don't recollect or which option you are talking about. Before four answer were wrong whatsoever. I don't know what option or question you are referring to. You can seamlessly ask me if you have that particular doubt. I hope everyone is clear with this particular question. Okay, so let's move on. And here goes the timer. Okay, so I'm giving 30 more seconds for all of you to go ahead and solve this question. Yeah, I see, still some of you don't require those 30 seconds. You guys are brilliant. Awesome. Yes, absolutely, you are right. Ratna Ganeshwar. Well, then, I'm leaving it to others to go ahead and attempt. Yes, absolutely, everyone who has gone ahead with option C. Okay, just coming on to the previous question which Anis has asked, about ad hoc, meaning. Meaning of ad hoc is, on a requirement basis, on a need basis. So out there in the question, in the previous question, you had seen that the requirement was urgent for that particular change to be in place. So that's why we went ahead with ad hoc. Okay, so one also other facet out here, uh, in this particular question. Well, even before that, let's go ahead and dig deep into this question. I see many of you, rightly going ahead and pointing out why it is the correct option. Let's go ahead and see why it is the one. And is there any other option which stands close? Let's see. So a team is facing several challenges to launch a product on time. The pandemic has already resulted in several delays. Okay. Now, given the fact that the TV ads for the launch dates are already purchased, the CEO has asked you who are the project manager, to come out with a new way to launch the product, even if certain minor features are excluded. Okay. Now, which of the following measures will be the best one for a successful and timely launch of the product launch? Okay, so now several challenges being faced by the product to launch it on time. The pandemic has resulted in several delays. Okay, now the pandemic has caused this particular issue of launching the product on time. You're never being able to launch, and it's all the time going ahead and causing delay and pegging you back. Now, given the fact that the launch dates are already purchased, in fact might already have been announced, the CEO has gone ahead and asked you as the project manager to go ahead and come out with a new way of launching the product, even if there are certain minor features which are excluded. So come out with the the features which are minimum viable features out there, or MVP, thought process of MVP. So that's what is being checked out here from the questions perspective. See, at all times you have the answer, right away lying in the question itself. It goes on and asks you about the MVP. The CEO has gone on and asked you, to ensure that you have the MVP in place and come out. Although the CEO has given you the hint, he hasn't come out with the statement that you please go ahead and come out with the MVP. But he has definitely gone ahead and provided you the instruction to come out with the minimum viable product, which will contain the most important features, excluding the minor features out there, which you can go ahead and take forward. So if you see in the options, option A, instruct the team to remove the product tests that are most likely to fail at first attempt and get the requirements descoped. Absolutely not. So it is asking you to go ahead and remove the product tests that are most likely to fail. We should not do that at any point of time, right? It's kind of coming out with a feature which is not properly tested and then landing up in a lot of trouble when it actually meets the market. You should never do that. Option B, triple the size of the team to ensure that any defects get detected and corrected as early as possible. Absolutely not. Detecting the defects early, doesn't have any semblance or any correlation with increasing the team size. Be double, triple, quadruple, any number of times. Option C, Coming up with a parallel iterative test track to develop requirements for a minimum viable product and get the unnecessary predicted task scope absolutely makes sense. Yeah, so by just looking into this MVP itself, you can go ahead and see to it that this particular option makes full sense. But then if you go ahead and read this entire option in entirety, coming up with a parallel track to develop MVP and get any unnecessarily predictive tasks getting descope is the need of the hour. Option D, avoid fast tracking this schedule and come up with a new test and readiness milestones which are as close as possible to the launch date. Now, fast tracking of schedule is obviously an alternative which you go ahead and do if you are facing time shortage or time crunch, and you don't have the relevant resources or even the time as such. I won't say the resources, have the time to go ahead and complete the work in schedule. So if you are going ahead and adopting fast tracking, you'll have to see to it whether the question goes there and asks you to go ahead and meet up some kind of time crunch at their end. Is it the case out here? Absolutely not. So you go ahead with the best option, which is option C in this case. So let's see the right option. As you see, option C is the best option. So the MVP as such goes ahead and helps increase the success through frequent customer feedback, simultaneously accelerating development via minimizing efforts. Now, in the question itself, there was the hint. Should have gone ahead and caught that, MVP, should be somewhere down the line, ideally featuring in the options. And then you also see that the other options also don't make sense. Fast tracking, never an option out here, especially given the fact that there is no time crunch being faced from the team's perspective. You increasing the size of the team to ensure that any defects get detected and corrected. As I said, defects and tripling the size of the team or doubling or quadrupling doesn't have any correlation with increasing the size of the team. Instructing the team to remove the tests which are most likely to fail at, obviously not. This is obviously not the way forward to go ahead, right? So it's kind of you going ahead and compromising with the quality of the product, you not going ahead and performing all the quality tests at your end. Okay, so do you have any questions on this question? Yes, absolutely, Shomo. Fast tracking also increases risk, but then again, in this particular case, there's no question of fast tracking itself. So, we should not be thinking out of the box. As I reiterate, we should be thinking in the context of the question itself, and you should be, obviously in a much better space or place. Yes, absolutely, Canvin. There are a lot of information to go ahead and distract you, and that's a feature. That's a feature of the questions. So that's also one of the reasons as to why I go ahead and instruct my mentees to practice as much as focus building as possible, and that too on a consistent basis. Now, keeping the focus going for 180 questions over 30 minutes is definitely some big challenge, and that's where you'll have to win upon. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Here comes question 7, and here starts your timer. Okay, so I will give 30 more seconds for this particular question. I'm very excited to actually go ahead and read out some of the very interesting comments. One by Ravi, who has gone ahead and seamlessly put forward the link between MVP and MBI is awesome. You should be knowing the difference between the two as well. The second very important aspect is Praveen going ahead and mentioning that delay may be related to fast tracking. Yes, absolutely. The delay may be related to fast tracking. But then, as I mentioned, very importantly, you should be going ahead and keeping it in mind that, you should not think out of the box. So if you are thinking out of the box inside this question, assuming that, it might be related to fast tracking, because you might have attempted some similar questions in the past, or delay can happen because of fast tracking as well. Kind of is a recipe for disaster out here. So remember, for PMP, you should have a strategy which doesn't entertain any kind of out of the box thinking as much as possible. Okay, so I see some D's out here coming out. Awesome. I see that there are some of you going and attempting are definitely ready for the exam. That I can say for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead into the description of the question. And here you go. So there are two companies, A and B, who are merged together. Now their merger results in combining an agile software product of erstwhile company A and a predictive electronic product of company B into a single hybrid project. Okay, so now there are two companies, company A and B. So company A comes out with an agile software project, and the company B goes out and comes out with the predictive electronics project. Okay, well and good. Now, couple of months have gone in, and couple of months down the line, requirements happen to change in both the tracks. So in the agile track, whatever the requirements were, those got changed. Even in the predictive track, where the scope is supposed to be relatively stable, those also happen to change. However, very, very importantly, no one has the full picture or status of the importance of the requirements. Okay. Now, in which of the following ways can the project manager best resolve? Remember, best resolve this problem. There are a couple of tracks, things are changing, and no one has track of these requirements. So, how best you can go ahead and keep track of the requirements? Remember, there is a tool, it's referred to as RTM, or Requirements Traceability Matrix, where you go ahead and trace back the requirements to its owner. Yeah, so owner out here might be the work package to which the particular requirement is referring to. You go ahead and refer back to that work package and get going. So now if you see option A out here, come up with a new master WBS for progress tracking. Now WBS, by the way, is a work breakdown structure. So for those who are relatively averse with, or relatively well aware of the the terminologies being made use of in PMI perspective, you know the importance of WBS. So why is WBS important? You have the whole work, you divide and split it up into work packages, and the team as such goes ahead and has an end-to-end view about which particular work package that they are currently working in. Now, is it because of the work package or the work breakdown structure, or this particular image or the lack of the same just causing this particular issue? Absolutely not. It's never that particular issue which is being talked about, right? So if there are any changes out here, who will go ahead and track in the WBS? WBS is just restricted to the work package level itself. Does it have more clarity or visibility than the work package level? Absolutely not, right? Think through. Option B, integrate the requirement specification into the product backlog and guide the electronics team on working with the new requirement. Now, the question is never about integrating one document into the other, right? So what will that go ahead and do for me? So it is as though saying that whatever document was going on out here, you go ahead and incorporate into something else. Doesn't make sense. So even the requirement specification, whatever are there for say agile or predictive, is saying that go ahead and incorporate that into product backlog. So that anyways has been done whatsoever at the outset. So you have had the product backlog coming in the right way or shape from the requirement specification itself. Why do you again need to go ahead and integrate that? And asking to guide the electronics team to work on with the new document, kind of restatement of whatever you had possibly done at the outset itself. You are working from the product backlog itself, right? What's new in that? The only problem out here is that the requirements are changing. How to go ahead and best align the requirements with the current flow? Option C, integrate the backlog into the requirement specification and guide the electronics team on working with the new document. Now, out here you see there is hardly any difference between options B and C. Yes, in one it is said about you integrating the requirement specification into the product backlog. In the other it is said that integrate the backlog into the requirement specification. Hardly makes any sense. Both of these options can be eliminated right away. Options D, which talks about requirements traceability matrix, by combining the product backlog with the requirement specification, define both documents as input. Absolutely the option which goes and stands out here. If you go back, And if you want to select this option, see the requirements traceability matrix providing a simple yet flexible view of the complete status of the requirements. Both the product backlog as well as the requirements document specification documents are needed to make sure a smooth continuity in each track. Okay, Calvin. So you often mix up required. Okay, I understand. Scope is what needs to be done and is not done, not part of the product requirements and details, functional, non-functional. Absolutely, Ravi. Yeah. So I hope everyone is now, aware of what exactly is the option and why it is the option. Very, very importantly, remember requirements traceability matrix or RTM will link the requirements back to their origin. Keep that in mind. Okay, so let's move forward. Here goes your next question, and let me start the timer. Okay, so last few seconds left. Anyone with any options? Awesome, Santosh. Bang on. Yes, Chalapati. Yes, Chalice. Yes, Ganeshwar. Yes, Naga. You guys have killed this question. Okay, so Shivaji says B and E. Okay, so remember, is it the decomposition of the work packages into tasks, which will help team to better sync up on the deliverables? Keep that in mind. Yes, Nishant. Yes, Oludare. Yes, Indumati. Absolutely, bang on. Spot on. So let's see what this question is talking about. Okay, so you are part of a hybrid project which combines software development and IT integration tasks. The agile and predictive teams happen to be working in silos, causing misalignment or misaligned delivery scheduling. So you have the agile team, you have the predictive team, and they happen to be working in silos. And those silos are as such going on and causing impediment, and relevantly causing misalignment in the delivery scheduling. Now, which of the following measures, select two out of these, would be most appropriately, enabling the teams to help sync better on the deliverables? Option A, make use of IT predictive scheduling to limit the features of the software teams, that they start to develop. Why will you limit the features? Is there any question to come out with limited features whatsoever? At no point you're going out and having such kind of an requirement in a hybrid project. Never ever, right? Why will you limit the features whatsoever? Whatever the requirement is or are, you are having to go out and take it forward end to end. Negate this option. Create a common Kanban board. Now, very, very important out here. The agile teams and the predictive teams are working in silos. Now, what does silo mean? Means that you're kind of working in only your pact and you are hardly going out and communicating or even bothering into what else is going on elsewhere. This is a common term used for a very, very studious guy who as such goes ahead and forgets the world and is in his silo. You can possibly go ahead and link to that kind of silo out here. The team is working in silos. They're hardly going around and communicating with anyone else. Now, that as such is the main root cause behind the misaligned scheduling, isn't it? So, if you have to go ahead and conquer this particular situation, you'll obviously have to come out with a scheme or with a mechanism or with a visualized approach, which as such goes ahead and helps you to come out with the better kind of tracking or better tracking of dependencies, better handling of dependencies, better queuing, better tracking of progress of both the teams deliverables. So option B makes perfect sense. Breaking down IT work packages into more granular tasks, is that the main motive out here? You break it down as such into tasks or not. Doesn't make sure that your agile teams or predictive teams are working out of their silos or even helping in the deliverable scheduling, isn't it? So, is the breaking down of tasks going ahead and helping you in deliverable scheduling? Remember, the scheduling as such is not being said as misaligned as such, but the alignment or the misalignment is between the two teams, which is causing the deliverable to misalign. Yes, it is mentioned out here as misaligned deliverable scheduling. Yes, absolutely fine. But then the teams happen to be working in silos, which is in turn causing the misalignment in the delivery scheduling. So it's not about the task which will again go ahead and help. If the team still works in silos, you still have the same problem whatsoever. This option gets knocked out. Come out with common milestones. So wherever you see this common word, is actually going in and trying to bind both of these teams together, isn't it? So obviously D also happens to be the best or the standout option. So you'll have to come out with these small clues, not get intimidated by any of the questions out here. Decompose IT work packages, again, never going to be the option. So let's go back, click on BND, submit, and you go ahead and see that Kanban board would provide a common visibility of work in progress that would facilitate better aligned work planning. Dependency integration and common milestones would further help provide synchronized delivery. So that's what you are looking forward to. Synchronized delivery between the two teams, agile team as well as the predictive ones. Yes, absolutely. Teams should collaborate to deliver. Yeah, so you can pronounce as Kanban, you can pronounce as Kanban. Yes, absolutely fine. Do they usually ask for two answers on the exam? Yes, Tiffany. So there are multiple options, being correct out here in the exam itself. And you might have to even choose three out of the five options. So there are multiple options which are correct in the real exam itself. However, max to max, there can be 10% of the questions, which will be either multiple options like these, or fill in the blanks, or even say, for example, drag and drop kind of questions, or hotspot questions, questions which are apart from MCQs. So only 10% will be, such kind of questions. Remaining 90%, around, 162 questions will be still these normal four option MCQs. Yes, absolutely. So, hope out here, if you see B and D are coming out with common keywords out here, right? Common Kanban board or even common milestones. So, both of these are having these common terms to go ahead and take it forward. Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. And here goes your timer. Okay, so I'm giving you 30 more seconds to choose this particular option. Many are opting for extreme programming, but is extreme programming the best option possible or feasible? Think through. Just giving 30 more seconds. Yes, Calvin, you are spot on. Okay, so just think through, take 30 more seconds. Okay. Yes, absolutely. As the criticality N has the number of staff. Absolutely. So Crystal, and XP are the closest options out here. But the only key differentiator between extreme programming and Crystal is the fact that extreme programming is not scalable. Crystal is. So, absolutely Ganeshwar. Absolutely, you're spot on. And that scalability is being looked out here. No, it's not option A. Although extreme programming might seem to be the closest option. Now you might be going ahead and asking me, do you have to now read full crystal mechanism or thought processes? Not necessarily, but then the more you know, the better out here, especially when it comes to methodologies. So Scrum is definitely something which you are very well aware of when it comes to Agile. Extreme programming is also one of the facets we which we go ahead and kind of borrow from the software programming methodologies and see if we can drill in some kind of efficiency in the team. But there are also crystal methodologies as well, just like any other agile methods which fits into the agile framework and takes forward your efficiency to a different level altogether. Absolutely, it's covered. So Hope says that BCD you are not aware of and you have opted for elimination option. Absolutely fair. If you are at all going for the same, it's not something which is too uncommon. It's absolutely fair, and you can actually adopt that intelligent guessing mode or method, and it's pretty normal if you go ahead and get the question wrong. No, feature-driven development won't come in play out here. Very, very importantly, because it's not about only the feature that's being looked into. In feature-driven development, you go out and drive the best practices to help see to it that the feature whatsoever is the core thought process out there. I had actually gone out and discussed a question in one of my previous Q and A's on feature-driven development itself. You can possibly refer back to the same as well. Presume it was just the one which I had posted a week back. You can just refer back to that particular question. You will get to see what driven development out there is. And let's go into the question, what it is asking for. Okay, so you are the project manager of a new wildlife reserve project that will have a staff of around 100 builders, logistics workers, and experts with exposure to various safety risks. Okay, you want a scalable approach combining team dynamic and flexibility backed by traditional safeguards. Which of the following is the best? Now, there are several facets to discuss. If say for example, if you are discussing about extreme programming or even behavior driven development or even feature driven development or even crystal, but whatever suits out here the best in terms of the scalability whatsoever, are extreme programming and crystal. But then extreme programming is never a scalable approach. So that's one of the reasons as to why Crystal wins over. Now, what is Crystal? How to make best use of Crystal? And how to go ahead and take it forward. Those are some of the other facets which we actually discussed during live classes, or even say, for example, the courses, the lessons, or the slides that you go ahead and enjoy from EduHubSpot. So those who have already have gone ahead and enrolled and also are reading through the slide decks or even the videos, they will definitely be able to see what's crystal all about and why it is not any of the other methods, why it's only crystal. So one of the lightweight processes out here, it helps to come out with the scalable option, where the team as well as any kind of flexibility is taken into consideration with obviously the traditional safeguards in play. So everything ticks very properly, the crystal way of taking forward the scheme of things. If you have any further questions on this particular facet, absolutely reach me out. No worries. Yes, absolutely, Calvin. More risky projects, deeper color, more manpower needed. Perfectly, bang on. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Okay, so as you see, the next closest option was XP, but that's not scalable. Okay, so here goes question 10. Okay, so I'm giving 30 more seconds. The meanwhile, I see some comments from the previous questions. Yes, Tainai, it definitely encourages collaboration among the team members. The only onus was to see, which of the following were, kind of best fit among all. Okay, so anyone with the best set of options out here, I understand that this might be a bit tricky, a tricky question. Remember, the word granularize is more from the perspective of breaking down, say an epic into, small facets, not the other way around. Is it the question of product roadmap? What is impact mapping? Incremental development. So all these facets might be, bit challenging to go out and fathom out here in this particular scenario. Okay, so I see several options. Jane, awesome, bang on. So I see out of all the options, Jane has smashed it. Very nice, Jane. Okay, so let's see what's the answer to this particular question. The project sponsor is not convinced that an agile track should be used in a new R&D project due to the need for certainty that specifically the specific features will be ready for mass production no later than a specific date. So what does that mean? So at first instance, everyone possibly might wish to reread this particular sentence. This is perfectly fine. Remember, as I mentioned, 30 seconds, 30 to 40 seconds. Go ahead and dedicate to understanding the question, very very carefully. Then dedicate the next 30 seconds for the options, and then the remaining 20 to 30 seconds for seeing whether you are able to apply elimination, keyword or any other strategies to help identify the best options. Even if in this particular question it might seem as though you're not 100% sure about the options, you mark the three options, just mark for review, move on. If you have time at the end, go back and review these particular questions. Anyways, even if you get this particular question wrong, not a big deal because you don't have negative marking, right? So this is one of the hardest questions, so let's make the most out of it. Okay, so it is said that the project sponsor is not convinced that an agile track should be used in a new R&D project due to the need for certainty that specific features will be ready for mass production no later than a specific date. Okay, how can agile methods ensure that the sponsor's need be fulfilled in a hybrid approach? Okay, so select three out of these. Now, impact mapping that might at first, first and foremost instance, bamboozle many of you. That's perfectly fine as such, because such kind of new terms can go ahead and feature in the exam, terms which you might not have encountered previously. And don't start thinking immediately that, hold on, this is out of the syllabus, I don't know this particular question what the answer would be, and start panicking. Don't do that. Remember, never ever trigger the panic button inside the exam, especially in PMP. Because very 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 seamlessly you might go out and see whether things make sense. Now, if say for example you don't know impact mapping, you leave that option, move to the next. Incremental development. So whenever it says about incremental development, reducing risks of quality delays has to be one of the best options out here. In fact, for a fully hybrid approach, the sponsor's requirement of having the features ready by a specific date, no later than a specific date, seamlessly goes ahead and fits in this kind of approach, where you don't go ahead and get to skip the deadline whatsoever. Also, the requirement priorities being confirmed at each iterations. Absolutely. So, what are the priorities whatsoever for the requirement? That's what you go ahead and do in product backlog refinement, isn't it? So, after refining the backlog, you have the set of all the product requirements with highest priority out there, and you go ahead and help deal with the same. So, let the requirements priority get confirmed at each iteration. So, what we are doing is, we are just kind of fine tuning the best practices that will be fulfilled, in a hybrid approach. Okay, option D. Stories can be granularized into epics. Never, never ever. It's as such can be done in the other way around. The epics can be broken down into stories, but never the other way around. Product roadmap providing a detailed breakdown. Now remember, product roadmap is at high level. So never ever will a product roadmap can be broken into say for example work packages or even less. Product roadmap will lead you definitely to product backlog. Definitely possible. And from product backlog, you go ahead and get to drill down into sprint backlog and take it forward during the scope of the sprint for execution. But never ever in real life, you have the product roadmap being broken down into, small, stories, or even less. So let's again revisit all the options and see out here. If you have gone through all these five options, you'll be easily able to see that this doesn't make sense, as I mentioned. And also option E also doesn't make sense. Product roadmap providing a detailed breakdown whatsoever is never the way forward. Just precisely the reason as to what I mentioned. Now, if these two don't make any sense, and you're asked to select three options out here out of the lot, why not choose the first three options which you haven't gone ahead and seen? Now, option B makes sense to you, C makes sense to you. Impact mapping is something entirely new. Now, what is impact mapping? It is used to group stories out here. Where, say, for example, you have a set of 10 stories, and say, for example, out of these three, that has a specific impact. Okay, well and good. Now, out of these two have a specific impact. Okay, well and good. And all these have another specific impact, which together, have a visionary towards the goal or the end result what the product is going at and trying to achieve. So what you are doing out here by making use of the impact mapping technique is that you are mapping the impacts of these relevant stories into groups which can be related or linked to the goal at the end of the day. So that aspect or that feature or perspective works seamlessly in a hybrid approach. Remember, we are not going ahead and saying that impact mapping has to be applied in hybrid approach. That might be, that might not be. But out here, out of all the five options, you have to choose three. So one of the good options out here is definitely impact mapping, which helps you to group stories. So all these three are best practices out here, which seamlessly fits into this perspective, that you can deliver, the features no later than a specific date. That's what precisely you're looking for. Options A, B, and C are the best options. I know there will be several questions out here. Absolutely. Elimination works like anything. Even if you're not aware of any of the options, as you see out here, elimination just goes there and helps you ace it. Yes, absolutely. So you need to read the textbook, or you need to, somewhere down the line gather the relevant understanding and ace it. That's what I can go out and say. So I hope you are clear with this particular question. So let me go ahead and clear the screen, move out, choose the first three options, which are A, B, and C. And if you see, in the explanation is also given list of valid agile methods to ensure on-time delivery. Why on-time delivery? Because in the question it's mentioned that you can deliver products no later than a specific date. So obviously it is linking it to specific date or on-time delivery. Now, what are the various methods to ensure backlog reprioritization, impact mapping, or even incremental testing whatsoever, would be the best way possible. You know full well that options D and E can't be the option. So that's the very, very precise reason. And I reiterate this fact that even if some knowledge, some word out here doesn't make sense, well and good, don't lose hope. Sometimes strategies like these can actually go out and help you attain the best way possible. In such cases, just mark these three options, mark for review, move on. Well and good if you get time to go out and get back to the question. Even if you don't, absolutely fine. Yeah, it is a tough one. I understand, but then even the tough ones have their strategies, and that's what precisely this particular question also help reflect. Okay, so any other questions, any other facets which you would like to discuss during the course of this particular session? I hope you enjoyed this set of 10 questions out here. I certainly uh, have high regards for all of you. Calvin, Indumati, everyone who are going ahead and participating in this discussion with all the relevant options. Okay, so there are various elimination techniques, Siva. Now, it's kind of horses for courses. You don't know for sure which particular elimination technique works for what. And that's where, the training goes. Say, for example, in our bootcamp, we actually go out and take care of, 75 sample cloned questions where we go out and drill deep or even showcase where exactly, you can apply which strategy. Sometimes keywords technique works, sometimes elimination works, sometimes a combination of these two works, sometimes the best guess method as well works, as Thanai a few minutes back went ahead and chose. So, various techniques to go ahead and make use of the same. Let me go ahead and share with you the YouTube link again, which you can go ahead and watch. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, so you'll get to access all my previously recorded 7 to 8 videos on such kind of questions itself, which are mostly agile. Today itself, we have gone ahead and come out with hybrid questions. Okay, so you can also go ahead and send me connection request over LinkedIn, or I can also go ahead and help solve any doubts or any queries. Okay, so you can just reach me out at any point of time. You can also reach me out over email, sharing my email ID all over again. Thanks, Nishan. Yeah, absolutely. So, Nishan is one of these students who is very serious, but somewhere down the line, is what commitments come over. So, actually, the end of the day, we have somewhere down the line, synced up. It's a great thing. Okay, so can we get predictive life cycle questions? Yes. So in hybrid, as you saw in requirements traceability question, some semblance of predictive. We'll definitely have predictive questions as well somewhere down the line in the near future. Don't need to worry. Okay, so we had a great discussion. I enjoyed thoroughly all the facets, all the points. Always something or the other to definitely learn. I look forward to new sessions whatsoever with newer set of questions. And till then, take care. Ping me on LinkedIn. Reach me out over my email ID. I'll be very very happy to go ahead and help each and every one of you. Yes, 50% agile questions in exam. 50% is the syllabus out here, but then some of the other per percentage of questions are also from the hybrid perspective, which is why you'll have to be very very careful when you say only 50% is in agile from agile. You normally, as we get to hear right now, around 70 to 80% questions from agile itself are going ahead and coming in the exam. Okay, so Jane, it happens on Thursdays every day. No, every week rather, every week Thursday at the same time. So at the same time when you join, 1.5 or rather 1 hour 40 minutes back from now on. Yes, absolutely. The 2021 syllabus, requires agile thought process or mindset or even hybrid questions to, feature. So you need to go ahead and be in line with, all the thought process from agile perspective. Absolutely, Abdu. For select three options, even if we give two options, no mark is given. Absolutely. So that's a very, very good point, being put forward. So for multiple option questions, even if you go ahead and, rightly point out or rightly choose, two out of three questions, two out of three options correctly, you don't get the full marks for that particular question. You have to go ahead and attempt all the three options or two options, whatever is being mentioned, correctly. Uh, See, very, very importantly, Praveen, you don't ideally, have any kind of, textbook which helps tide you over in PMP exam. It's always, good to have, knowledge built up from the textbooks, but, no assurance whatsoever that if you read XYZ book, such kind of questions will feature in the exam. So concepts can, easily be got by videos, by sessions, by mentorship, even by reading books, even by surfing the internet as well. Various facets by which you can go ahead and ace the concepts and apply those in the real time exam scenario. Absolutely, Calvin. Okay, cool. So very, very, very nice, Calvin. Very nice of you to go ahead and put forward the books. So Calvin definitely is one of the the serious contenders of acing PMP very soon. So I see him as one of the guys as such who stands out with all the explanations. Okay, so take care, guys. We'll see you again next week. We'll catch you, and feel free to reach me out. Again, very very importantly, please feel free to like, comment, share. The YouTube videos. That's what helps us keep running, and that's what we honestly look forward to. So ping me anytime. I'll be more than happy to help you. Thanks a lot, Calvin. Just look forward to getting done with more and more such kind of question, and obviously continuously improving in our way to go ahead and help you the best way possible to help ace the exam. I would say there are concepts to read, yes, absolutely. But since you're practicing the agile way, right, you'll definitely ace the exam. Okay, hope. Okay, so everyone, thanks a lot. See you next week. Bye bye.